And as people start coming in, there we go.
We can keep an eye on the door,
Keep an eye
and
on the waiting room as we do this. There we go. Chad is coming in.
I'll leave the waiting room while we introduce the day here with you, Mr. Bartlett, and I'll share my screen. Welcome everybody. Good morning. Everybody have a wonderful evening. Good. Good. And then glad that everybody's here today. Today is work. Today is more work. Fewer slides than yesterday. And probably a little less of us talking into slides as we're going into it. Today is really this is a fun day. Blaine and I were meeting just a little while ago. Just kind of chatting about the topics today, and there's a lot of meat and potatoes to today, if to use an American colloquialism there. We have as we talked about the agenda kind of for the week. Yesterday, we focused on discovering our why, our core values. We talked about purpose and how they align with the organization's mission. Today, we're going to focus in on dimensions of leadership. We're going to get into the conversation around what is a leader, start applying some definitions to what is a leader and what is leadership about. And we'll talk about a couple of more models as we work through it. And then we'll break into we have worksheets today and breakout groups. We have more to do. So I'm going to move on to yesterday. We introduced these two reference models with the leadership universe and the four pillars. And I want to just give us an opportunity this morning just to reground ourselves on kind of what each is. And Blaine, if you want to revisit the leadership
Yeah.
universe, and I'll
And, and,
talk about
and
the four
yeah, and
pillars.
definitely we'll do that. And just a real quick note here, as you look
Yes.
at and Dolan and I, it may look like we planned to coordinate our outfits. We did not. Okay. Yeah. It just kind of happened.
We-
Uh, we both wore black yesterday to start, and so just to let you know, I mean, yeah, we're guys, and guys don't do that sort of thing. He said with, yeah.
I didn't call him in the morning and say, "What are you wearing?" I can't
Uh,
wear this because they
but it
saw
was
me
just
in it
kind of funny.
yesterday. So anyway,
So we
we'll
were
go
we
on.
were just kind of kidding about that this morning as well. So anyway, this model came out of work I've done over the last 40 plus years. And as I mentioned yesterday, almost every leadership development program I had ever been exposed to focused on three primary areas. And there was, nuances in there and all kinds of other stuff, but three primary areas: develop a vision, formulate a vision, develop a strategy that will be a likely path to the realization of that vision, and then understand what the tactics are within that strategy that are the KPIs, the things that you need to do, the checkbox, the milestones, that sort of thing. So vision, strategy, and tactics, which is the why, what, and how of this model. It's important. But yeah, and here's a factoid that I did not mention yesterday. Leaders in organizations are looking to have their people be emotionally engaged with what they're doing. And emotional engagement has to do with, I want to do this, which is contrasted to, I have to do this because you're my boss, you told me to. So that holy grail of emotional engagement is something that we really pay attention to. And the factoid here is this. Yeah, in McKinsey, the McKinsey consulting firm actually published this. Organizations in the world, around the world, spend up to about $42 billion annually on leadership development with the intent of increasing emotional engagement, employee emotional engagement. Now, one of the other metrics here is something Gallup's done for about the last 20 plus years, which is a measure of emotional engagement. Yeah, how are people engaged in what they do? And what Gallup's data shows is fully 87 to 89% of people around the world are disengaged in some way from the work they do. They're just, they're going through the motions. They show up to get the paycheck, sort of a thing. They're motivated by the paycheck. So if you spend $42 billion with the idea of increasing emotional engagement, you look at some of this data, Gallup's numbers, 87% disengaged, have not changed in 20 plus years. And there's been a variance of about 2 or 3 points over that period of time, but that stays the same. So we're missing the mark somewhere, which is where this leadership universe model began to, kind of quicken for me in my mind. What are we missing? And you drop down below the why and you enter a domain that we call the mindset. And what's going on there is this mindset area is what informs all decisions that are made in terms of how people behave. How I describe something determines how I feel about it. How I feel about it drives my behavior. How I describe something for most people is out of awareness. They just have an emotional reaction to something that's going on, and their behavior is connected to that emotional reaction. So another way of saying that is they think the way they feel, and they think the way they feel. So I feel like I'm being put upon. I feel as if I have no power. I feel as if, it's just a job, and their behavior is indicative of that. So when we started looking at how do we work with mindset, that opened up all kinds of things here. And as we go back to some of the conversation yesterday, awareness precedes choice. So an increase in awareness, which is what we do when we explore mindset, an increase in awareness increases choice making. It increases the numbers of choices that I have available to me about how I behave. Now, that's that particular domain. And we will, and Dolan and I both spend an incredible amount of time working with the clients that we work with on this mindset domain. Below that is what we call spirit or soul. And this has no religious connotation at all. It's just really that spark that, when it's accessed, it's creativity, it's inspiration. It's that thing that gets me out of bed in the morning going, oh, I can't wait to go do this. Yeah. That when we can tap into that, that is emotional engagement. When we have people that can tap into the spirit of creativity, the spirit of, expression. How do I express myself most fully in this environment? That's what we're looking to create here. When we can move into those two areas, not ignoring the vision, strategy, tactics, but move into the other domains of mindset and spirit, all of a sudden, this whole thing around leadership changes. And it becomes far more likely that you're going to get highly engaged people moving in a direction, and your organization is going to be, well, colloquialism here is cooking with gas. You're really gonna be moving, and people walk in and they feel it. I mean, you walk into a company and you can feel if it's alive or not. Most organizations, when you walk in, it doesn't feel alive, and that's what we want to create here. So that's what this leadership universe model is about.
Right.
And the pillar model, Dolan, this is the one that you've developed and spent the most time with here. And we're
Yeah.
marrying these two models.
Yeah, and in marrying these together, and I'm going to go pretty short on this today because we'll spend more time in it as the week goes on. But really, the pillar focuses on, and it's kind of it's a never. I think in all models, not a beginning or an end. It's kind of there's a process that goes through where the models are repeated because things change. The seasonality of your leadership, the business, the team, the goals, objectives. So the ability to be able to leverage the components of the leadership universe and what I call the pillars of empowerment really give you the opportunity as a leader to apply the kind of the right solution to the right moment in time within your business, within the body of your business. And the pillars, just in brief and review, were built around the very first is trust, and I view trust as the cornerstone of building a relationship, because leadership is really about relationships, and you'll hear Blaine and I talk about that over and over. So it is about building those relationships. I trust me, I trust you, and you trust me, and we build up kind of a four-tier trust structure. Communication and transparency is, as we'll get into a little bit of that more tomorrow around communication, but a linchpin for trust is our ability to communicate and do that effectively, and then do it with, as some of you may have heard of the model, radical candor. Communication is not about inflicting harm in any way, communication really is that opportunity to make sure that we are aligned. And we'll get more into that. Growth and innovation. When you have trust and you're communicating and you're in alignment, growth and innovation become simpler. There's a little difference between what growth means and what innovation is, but the key factor there is that it promotes a culture of continuous learning in your organization, that your organization is consistently striving to improve upon itself. Team members are learning. Team members are willing to take risks. Trust gives them the willingness to try, and they're willing to go experiment and try new possibilities, which increases velocity of innovation inside of any organization of any size. And in systems of accountability, that really is measuring where we are and ensuring that there's ownership, that we are in alignment, that you've agreed and I've agreed on what we own and how we're responsible to each other. I think one of the great things about leadership is it transcends down through the team. It's not necessarily about us teaching each other to be leaders, but how we leave here and teach our teams to be leaders, and how they apply it with members in their organizations. So it gives that opportunity throughout the entire organization or family or charity or whatever you're building to stay aligned with goals so that everybody's focused. And when people are out of alignment, it creates the opportunity for people for fear, uncertainty, and doubt, right? Because clarity builds confidence. So that's the 4 pillars, the review of the 4 pillars.
And we're going to go into depth with these. So when we're looking at mindset, how do you work with mindset? We're going to begin doing that today.
Yeah.
And for the next couple of days, we're going to continue to kind of peel that onion back. And these 4 pillars, they come into play with all of the work that we're going to be doing here. So and the invitation here is to just kind of strap in a little bit, and we'll go play.
Yeah.
Before we move to the next slide, I want to just pause for a moment here. We're talking about leadership. This whole 5-day challenge is organized around the notion of being more effective as a leader. And I want to just, take a moment and define what we mean by leader before we even begin to explore what the notion of leadership is, because they are 2 distinct animals. Okay. A leader is anybody that causes movement in the system that they're a part of. Now, by system, what do I mean? Well, I mean your family. Yeah, okay, that's a system. Your business, your team, your neighborhood, your community. A leader causes movement. I mean, that's the simplest definition I have ever come up with for what a leader is and what a leader actually makes happen. They cause movement. Now, they do that through personality. They do that through their skill set. They do that through just all kinds of different things. But you strip away all of that stuff, and essentially what you've got is somebody that's causing movement. And you just think about it this way: when you come into any kind of an environment, people have to adjust to accommodate your presence. That's movement. They have to account for the fact that you're there. Now, you can show up like Genghis Khan, waving a big sword, snorting horse, and everything else. You're going to cause a lot of movement. It's going to be probably pretty frantic. Or you can show up kind of like a glazed donut and just sit there and breathe. And what are you doing? Well, I'm circulating air. Yeah, well, you're still going to be causing movement. Okay. So the question here is what kind of movement you're causing, which gets us to the question of what is leadership. If we're always causing movement, by definition, every one of us is a leader. However, not every one of us is effective as a leader, because the movement most of us will generate is not going to be serving us. It's not going to be moving us or our organization towards what we want to have happen. And yes, Shaima, movement is the same as change. Yeah, because things move, things change, things shift. So is this change actually in service of the result that we say that we want to have, which is where the question of leadership comes into play. And you can learn about leadership. So that takes off the table this question of, is a leader born or made? Yes, is the answer. All of us are leaders because we're born and we show up. Leadership is a skill set that can get developed, and that's what we're focusing on here in this 5-day challenge and the 30-day challenge that you're going to be engaged with following the conclusion of these 5 days. So if we go to the definition of leadership, which is this next slide, leadership is an activity. And it's the activity of, and there's 4 parts to this: influencing others. I'm going to take this and I'll just read it real quickly. Influencing others to co-create coordinated movement in pursuit of a worthy ideal. Now let's break that down a little. Influencing others. This takes command and control off of the table. Okay. Influencing is a way that people move because of how I show up. How I show up. Yeah, and what kind of movement do I compel just by my presence? There's an influencing dynamic that comes into play here, and it has to do with energy. It has to do with frequency. It has to do with vibrational context. It has to do with how I move through the environment. And people are either attracted to or repelled by that movement, that energy, that dynamic. And that's what influencing fundamentally can come down to. Influencing others in order to co-create ownership transfers. That's what co-creation is. It's not my idea any longer. It's now our idea. And if we're looking at emotional intelligence or emotional engagement, you want to have ownership. Yeah. Evidenced all the way through the organization. It doesn't just live in the boardroom, or it doesn't live in the CEO suite or the manager's office, or what. Everybody's engaged in it if you've done this well. Ownership, co-creation, there's buy-in, coordinated movement. And Shaima, this is where change comes in, in movement. When we start moving towards a future state that we've never realized before or have ever played with before, we're in unknown territory. And because we're in unknown territory, it's going to be difficult to coordinate well. So this is where we start paying attention from a communication standpoint about how do we do this dance with each other. And this is where, when we start looking at coordinated movement, it's not about harmony. It's about how do we agree to move together and accommodate the differences that we all bring to the table, because those differences can be very illuminating. Now, here's an example of this. Just rub your hands together. Everybody do this, just real quickly. Rub your hands together. And what do you notice? It starts to get warmer. Now, if you kept doing this really, really fast, you would probably start a fire. I mean, this is, if you take the idea of fire starting. This is what conflict is about. Conflict is friction. And friction generates heat and it generates light. So in an organization where coordinated movement comes into play here, you want to have appropriate conflict, which is a way of saying we want to bring disparate points of view in so that we can clarify. This is what heat does. It burns away stuff that is extraneous, and light illuminates. So we're looking at using conflict effectively. And conflict doesn't mean you're butting heads. It means that you're accommodating different points of view and you're really entertaining this. So how do you coordinate movement as a process? The last piece of this has to do with a pursuit of a worthy ideal. A worthy ideal is something that inspires. A worthy ideal is something that taps into the soul, the spirit of the individuals that are engaged in making it a reality. So when we're looking at leadership, if you have a worthy ideal in place, this answers the question, for the sake of what am I doing this? For the sake of what do I come to work at, whatever time I come to work? This for the sake of what becomes crucial, and it has to get defined. And it's not something that I, as a leader, can tell you what it is. It's a question that I ask you as an invitation for you to tell me What's important to you about what we're doing? What's important to you about what we're doing? Is it a worthy thing? Yeah, and does it is this objective worthy of who you are? You're going to be investing your time, your life's energy in the manifestation of this. Is it worthy of that for you? And if it is, we've got a basis to actually begin to move. So this is what we're looking at when we're defining leadership. This is actually what we're looking to create as we move forward. Now, the question becomes, how do we actually go about doing that? Well, this is where the four pillars come in, and this is where the leadership universe comes in. Right now, we want to get a little bit more granular. And before we move to that next piece, Dolan, do you have anything to add to this?
Well, I wanted to just stop because we've got leaders on this call.
Yes.
So I wanted to, I think one of the challenges that leaders face is defining what am I doing? What am I and there's when I work with our clients and my clients, I really talk about there's three tiers, right? You do, manage, and lead. And I love this definition, but I wanted to hear from you, this is a family call. So I wanted to hear your thoughts as well on this definition. Does this definition make sense to you? And don't be afraid to come off mute and just jump in.
Yeah, I'll jump in there and say it was the first time Blaine put this up on site. I was at a Bob Proctor seminar that I just fell in love with this definition. I think for someone who's often been between business and the personal development world, this definition is one that transfers across any industry, any belief level, anyone, wherever their spiritual journey is or their personal development journey is. This is one that I've very successfully been able to transfer to other people. And the term co-create is such a phenomenal term from my perspective, because people can buy it. It does not matter what background you come from and where you're at. And I think as you study that co-creation topic more and more, it expands, and exponentially. But it is something that I think everyone can dump their teeth into, and it's been something that I've used every day since I first saw it probably 7 years ago from Blaine. So I think it's just a phenomenal definition.
That's very cool. That's cool. I was in the room that day. I remember that day.
Nice.
Remember that day. Very cool. So any other thoughts, Shima or Chad or Tanya?
Yeah, well, Blaine, we've always had the same mindset. So and I think this is a brilliant especially when you're talking about the energy and the vibrational influence that you bring to bear, and really in having inspiring others to buy into the vision. It's like, and see what it is important to them. I think the more you have their connection to their own purpose as to why they're excited about the ideal and the goal, the more excitement and vibration you have within the organization. So I think I love this, along with that. I love what you said about leadership causes movement, in this direction. So I think that, they wanted to confirm my speaking language is Japanese. That's interesting. So no, yeah. So I think it's absolutely brilliant. And I love the merging of both your elements there, but that is my perspective on it.
Great.
Yeah. I can tell you from a practical experience as a CEO, having walked, the miles running businesses and selling companies and doing those things, one of the challenges that we always face, kind of to step out of the teaching mode, really is influence. I talked a little bit about alignment a moment ago, but it really is that opportunity when you're influencing and relinquishing command and control, it changes the dynamic of your relationship immediately. The relationship blossoms. And then it begins to empower people to be willing to want to co-create. Then they feel comfortable co-creating. I think a lot of times people feel uncomfortable when they're in the mix of they're being asked for their opinion or asked for their thoughts. They don't want to contribute. And coordinated movement, as Blaine mentioned, is that opportunity. How are we going to do this together? And where the ideal is, and we'll talk about this later, but it's the for the sake of what.
Yeah.
What is the worthy ideal? What is the for the sake of what? And it's about them, about you, about the business. There's a lot of different dynamics that go in there. So I love this model and use this model for years and years and years as well. So
Ryan,
Shima, I see your hand is raised, Shima. You can
oh, Shima, yeah, there. And then
you can
Ryan, I
just
saw
jump
that you
in.
had yours
You
up
don't
as
have to
well.
raise your hand. You can just jump in.
Okay, thank you, Doland. I think the definition is so insightful indeed. And I have a question popping up in my mind, like, what
Sure.
if the coordinated movement is not creating change? Is it a problem with the leadership, or is it more related to the system being inefficient, or the environment maybe, or team dynamics? I have seen a lot of coordinated movement. I have been part of several coordinated movement, and in some significant number of cases, the change was not there. It was not happening.
Yeah, so I think first of all, yeah, things are always changing. We'll just kind of start with that, yeah, that statement. Things are always changing. If life is happening, change is occurring. We want to be in front of the change in some sense where we can actually direct the nature of the change. Is the change in service of, in this particular case, a worthy ideal? Oftentimes change happens just because it happens, and people really aren't intentionally positioning the change for a specific outcome. So this is where, when you start thinking about leadership, we're looking at how do we institute change? How do we actually bring change to the table in a way that is linked to that worthy ideal? And this is, to your point, I think, Shima, oftentimes, people don't understand a lot of why things are happening the way that they're happening. The change is just occurring, and that becomes problematic. And pretty soon you've got people that are disillusioned and disengaged. So
Yeah.
it's a great question. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a powerful question. And the other thing too, I guess, if Shima, just because in your mind change didn't happen, but change did happen, which change did happen is things didn't change. It's kind of a chicken and egg conversation. It's a circular conversation there. But I think because of that, it's an indicator that, again, there's a set of expectations, which can be also called alignment. There's an expectation to the right and an expectation to the left, and they weren't joined together. So one group is looking for one result, another group is looking for another result, and so that opportunity to co-create and co-agree and co-commit and be co-accountable as part of the co-creation process. So
Ryan, how about
great
you?
question, Shima. That's a good one. Mr. Harris, I see your hand up there.
Yes, thank you. Thank you both. So applying this to getting bills passed in Congress, for example, how would you apply this when you have people not just necessarily neutral, but like on the opposite side of you blocking?
Yeah.
Digging their heels and purposefully blocking what you're trying to get across.
Great question.
And you can't fire them, or you can't put them on a performance enhancement plan.
This is where this question of a worthy ideal comes into play.
Right.
And for the sake of what? When people become rigid in their behavior, rigid about positions, there's all kinds of mischief that gets created. And one of the dynamics that occurs in just every human relationship is the need to be right. And most people, and I literally mean this in an absolute sense, most people on this planet would rather be right than get what they say they want.
Yeah.
They would rather be right than get what they say they want. And that's what we see in political discourse a lot, is adamancy about the rightness of a position at the cost of something that everybody says that they would like to have. And, oftentimes these disagreements are disagreements around conclusions. And what does not often happen is an exploration of the assumptions that are holding up those conclusions. So if you think of conclusions, every argument that you ever have are arguments of conclusions. And those conclusions are literally, I'm right, I'm right. And we butt heads. And as long as we are going and engaging conversations about who's right and whose conclusion is most valid, we're not going to move anywhere. You want to be able to find a way to drop, and this is where some of the communication work we do comes into play here, drop underneath the conclusion and what are the supporting pillars? What are the assumptions that you're making that support that conclusion? And there's usually 3, 4, or 5 assumptions that can be legitimately challenged. And the difficulty is getting people to let go of their death grip on their conclusion long enough to explore the assumption. This does not happen in politics particularly well, particularly when people become ideologically wedded to a position. So I'm not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that this kind of leadership is easy to do. It is an incredible challenge.
Yeah. It's such a great statement. It's such a great question. That it's in not to go on because we've got a couple more questions and I want to move us forward into some content here too. But to your point, Ryan, when we think of political environments, having had the opportunity to work in multi-billion-dollar size organizations before as a leader, and that willingness, that death grip that I've put on my ideal, that I've always done it this way. This is how I do it. This is what we're going to do. Occurs occurs frequently within the body of organizations. So it's not endemic to just a political environment, but the political nature of people not being willing to let go of that death grip and explore what they're trying to accomplish for the sake of what, that worthy ideal, and let go of that. That's one of the arts and nuances is how do you coach somebody, and we're not going to get into the depth of that in this, but how do you coach somebody through that process so they let go?
Yeah. And letting go is not the same as giving up.
Correct.
Letting go is just loosening the death grip so that something else can be explored. And that's what we're looking at
I'm
doing
looking
here.
into this, and like this is a really cool. I love this whole sentence. It's a great leadership kind of definition. And honestly, I was talking to 2 other people this morning about this, like, okay, why am I even taking this 1 hour a week, 5 days leadership? Why am I even here? It's like, this is taken away from my tea time right now. I should be golfing right now. But I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, I'm here for a reason, right? So up until the last 4 years, I've ran my own business and it's just been me managing, but I'm to this point now where I'm branching out into a project where I'm going to start it, but I don't want to deal with it because I know there's other people that actually could utilize this project to their advantage, So that's why I'm here. And it's like, oh, okay, this is why I'm here, because I've led people before, but like cheerleading, and like I've led patients to kind of lead them to do their treatment, but I've never led to like benefit me in a, entrepreneurial way. So therefore, this is why I'm here. And but then while I was talking to these 2 individuals this morning, it's like, oh, okay, so the project I have, it's going to influence people, it's going to co-create. And on top of it, I think leadership is kind of vacation for me because I actually get to give my homework to somebody else and let them do it. So I'm like, I'm all about the leadership right now. But for me, I've experienced like 3 different type of leadership positions. And right now I'm unfamiliar with the one that actually makes me money faster. So that's how I'm viewing this leadership.
Okay, great.
Good. That's
Stay
good.
tuned. We're gonna, I think you're gonna get some really interesting little nuggets here, Tanya, over the next couple of days that are gonna really assist you in that next level, that next move. So we've got two more, and then we're going to have to move quickly, just to be sure that we don't run out of runway here.
Right.
Janice, how about you?
Just a quick observation about this. I love this. And one of the things I really appreciated is you're emphasizing how you're being, so that you're implying it with trust. But I would add a nuance of, are you creating safety for people to contribute and feel that they could be heard and not be squelched, which is another reason people wouldn't contribute. So the awareness of the leader as to what am I creating through my presence and through my energy.
Perfect.
Right. Great
Spot on.
statement.
Bella.
Yeah, I was just thinking about in your discussion that I believe that pursuing the worthy ideal is also preventing the ego of the leader, for instance, or other people in the team, because we're doing this in a co-creation, in a common way. We find our, what is it called? Yeah, line together.
Mhm.
That's how we do it. And I think that's what needed. That's what is needed in most organizations at this
Yeah.
time.
This kind of leadership requires vulnerability. It requires me kind of saying, okay, co-creation is I'm not the boss. Yeah, that is, yeah, that whole command
Yeah.
and control piece, begins to get set aside. Okay. And that can be incredibly vulnerable for people that are used to thinking in terms of boss subordinate sorts of relationships. And, but as we look to what's emerging, I think for the human species, this is the kind of leadership that's required if we're going to thrive and not just survive long term.
Yeah.
Is it a kind of servant leadership, would you say?
Yes, there's
Yes.
some servant leadership that comes into this. Absolutely. Yeah, this book over my shoulder here is called Compassionate Capitalism.
Capitalism. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
compassion is a behavior that is linked to the realization that everything is connected. So I behave in a way that is honoring
Yes.
rather than commanding.
Yeah. We're living from our hearts. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that. Thank you.
Great.
Well, so how do we go about doing this leadership thing? That's that's kind of where we're going here. So I think we'll just bring up this next slide.
Before we go to the next slide, I want
Yeah.
to acknowledge. So Benson asked a question in the chat: what qualifies the part of worthy ideal, worthy deal?
Great question. I didn't see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So that was in the chat. So maybe we have just take one moment or two. I don't want to ignore Benson's question before we leave the slide, because I think that will become a piece of the work that we're doing over the next couple of days, is what defines the worthy ideal.
Yeah. The way that comes out when I started playing with it, and when I built this model, it's a worthy ideal is something that lights people's eyes up. Now, a worthy ideal of, a goal, as an example here, a goal of we're going to increase revenues by 10% this year. That's not a worthy ideal, because you don't see the lights go on in people's eyes. It's kind of like, yeah, whatever. You're just going to make me work harder. That sort of a thing. A worthy ideal is something that taps into that spirit that wants to be expressed, that spirit that wants to dance, in the light of day. And I use aphorisms like that because it's hard to define. Benson, for you, a worthy ideal will be different than what it is for me. And that's important to understand. So this literally says, I can't tell you what the worthy ideal is for you, but I can invite you to explore with me what it might be for you. And yes, as a leader, particularly a business leader, I'm going to have goals and objectives out here that we're moving towards. But
Sure.
the worthy ideal becomes very personal. If we did this, what does it make possible for you that you wouldn't get to have, do, or be if this wasn't happening? That's how we begin to define the worthy ideal. What does it make possible?
Good step. So now let's go on to the next slide. great conversation. I love this conversation today.
So this model, ACCT, leaders cause movement. How do they do it? They do it by acting. Okay, so there's an acronym here, ACCT. And we're gonna go into depth on this in the next 3 days, but just so that you've got a place to hold this. The acronym stands for awareness, context, and awareness. Well, again, expand awareness, you see different choices available. Those choices are meaningless until you frame it with a contextual overlay. The context gives meaning to what it is that we're doing. Okay, so when we're looking at it, as leaders, this is how leaders begin to cause the appropriate kind of movement. It begins with awareness, then they frame it in meaning, managing the meaning, helping to define the meaning for people, which is context. How you do that is through communication mastery. Most people are accidental communicators.
Yes.
Yeah. And what we're looking at here is mastering the activity of communication. Now, here's an interesting little factoid. The purpose of leadership is to produce a result. That's what the purpose of leadership is. If I ask you, why do you communicate with anybody? You're going to give me all kinds of different things. Well, I communicate to connect. I communicate to share information. I communicate to socialize. I communicate, take your pick. These are all classes of results. They're just various results. We communicate with another to produce a result. Leadership and communication are the same thing at the end of the day. So if I want to be highly effective as a leader, I have to master the process of communicating. And communicating is not talking. That's part of it. But it's far beyond just an exchange of words. It's imbued with meaning. Okay, what's the meaning that we're working with here? And then these last two elements come down to commitment. Yeah. And commitment is poorly understood, I think, for most people. Commitment in this context, when we're looking with it as a leader, it's not committed to something out there. I end up being the symbol of what it is I'm asking my people to engage in. Okay, this is the state of being. This is leadership presence, and it's literally steeped in commitment. I am a commitment. This is why we go back to, and we started with yesterday, this whole notion of I am. Okay. And then the final piece here has to do with trust. Everything is relationship. Everything is relationship. And relationships are built on a foundation of trust. The stronger that foundation, the more effective you'll be at handling perturbations, things that kind of go off the rails, the coordinated movement dynamic. So over the course of the next 3 days here, we're going to be working more and more these 5 elements of the ACT model into what we're working with here. So now we're going to put you to work. So this challenge worksheet, Dr. White.
Yes, you should have in the chat. I just dropped a brand new PDF in the chat. And if you can give me an acknowledgement or a thumbs up that you have everybody has the PDF, and this is not this page of the PDF is that we're going to work with is an opportunity, and this is where we'll invite ourselves to let's take a pause, and when we think of, I'll put this slide back up as Blaine was talking through the definition of the ACT model. As you're working through this, so that you see the definition along with it. But when you're working through this, what we're going to invite you to is we're going to take 5 minutes. And I would like you to work through the model. And the questions are, do I have a stillness? Do I know how to frame a request? Communication, commitment, trust. And this is a self-assessment. It is not scoring. It is not, we're not going to keep score, but it's an opportunity to look at where you are today in the construct of this ACCT model. And what we're looking for is areas of strengths and weakness. So if you feel you're strong in it, mark it off. I think this is something that I'm not focused on, and there's no good or bad. Remember, anytime we're developing muscles. As we go to the gym or play golf, by the way, Tanya, instead you're missing your tee time when you're playing golf, right? And practicing your swing, which I'm terrible at practicing my swing. When you're practicing your swing, it is muscle repetition. It's building that strength, building that follow through. So that's what we're focusing on here. So we're going to invite you on. I'm going to set a 5-minute timer and ask you to spend a few minutes working through this PDF. And everybody has it. Everybody's good. You're over here on my other screen, which is why I'm looking to my left. Good. All right. So I'll put this slide up. I'm going to start a little timer. You'll hear some music going underneath. I promised music and mood today. So we have music going. 5-minute countdown. And you can work through that.
So just go through the worksheet.
Is that
No
okay?
right or wrong answer. It's just kind of, how do I assess myself right now? It's a self-assessment. Just kind of get a sense of where you are within the context of this model.
How was that exercise for you? That's a lot of exercise for a 5-minute period. Let's,
That's actually a great exercise, guys. It's very self-reflective, and I noticed myself answering that, partially on a lot of these things.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not either or, it's kind of like, yeah, in most cases, except for this, a lot of cases, except for that, or with my partner, not so much, but everybody else good, those kind of things.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
That's
Very
good
good
noticing.
exercise.
That's a great feedback. Thank you, Chad. That's it's fun to self-reflect. So I'm gonna also send another document in the chat here. We're gonna go back and work with it. And as Blaine and I were mentioning, there's no right or wrong in it. It's an opportunity for us to kind of look at it. And I do find that when I go back and visit that myself, there are some yes, if, ands that when even still as I work through those. So I just put another PDF as a reference guide into the chat, and this document really is designed to layer in with, again, as a reference for you after today and going forward, the kind of the definitions of each of them, the ACCCT model, and then how they align with growth and innovation and trust and communication and transparency. So you can begin to see kind of the correlation between the things that we're talking about and how they align in with empowerment and enablement with your teams. But we're going to go on to the next page of the document now. And again, I'll set another 5-minute timer. And it's an opportunity for you now, based on your reflection going through that self-assessment, to take some notes. What leadership dimension is your strongest and why? Right, Chad, to your point, where are your strengths, but why are you strong there? Where do you need improvement, and why do you feel you need improvement? And so this is an opportunity for us to take 5 minutes and work through this. In 5 minutes, in 10 minutes, sorry, Blaine, in 10 minutes, this is not something we're going to solve today. This is a content that will go with you. So it's a chance to kind of go back and reflect on your self-assessment. Sorry, Blaine, go ahead.
Well, yeah, you need to put it in the chat.
Oh, I did. I hit go. It should be
No,
in the
the
chat?
one that you put, yeah,
Or did I put the same one
worksheet
in
is
there
not
again?
the chat. The one that you put in the chat is the reference piece for the 4 pillars and the link.
Right. So we're still in the original document. So it's page 2 of the page. It's actually page 4 of the challenge document that I sent in there. Let me read. I'll put
There
it
we
in the
go.
chat again.
Got it. Yep. Okay, guys.
There we go.
There we go. So
keep going
that
down
first
in the document.
just scroll down. Yes.
Scroll down. Sorry, thank you. That's an instruction I missed in that process. Is scroll down. So I'll set a 5-minute timer, and we'll have the waves on screen for just a little bit. But it's an opportunity for us now to kind of work through it. Yes, it is the last page of the first doc. Thank you, Bella. Perfect. All right. Good deal. So I'm gonna move on and go on it. We'll set 5 minutes and do this, and then we'll come back and visit, and then we'll go into breakouts and talk about our experience, the power of the mastermind. So here we go. welcome back. How was the self-reflection? Through the assessment and then through completing that little bit of the questionnaire, what were your thoughts kind of going through that process? Ryan, I'll call on you.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. A great exercise, and for me, it really hit home on communication. Even the one in I feel like my top domain is awareness, and my awareness it was telling me that even the second one that I left open of saying I didn't check that one off, but I consistently pause before initiating a reflexive response, and that's something that I feel is in communication as well. So the communication domain, I think just gaining comfort in saying I don't know. Too often I think it's been if you don't know something, your credibility is at risk, and then it's the paradox of saying, you know what, either it's not high enough on my give a shit list to know that, or I have like Henry Ford, a button on my desk I can push to get that answer for you. I know where to get the answer. I don't waste my brain space with it. So yeah, just great exercise, and this has been very, very rewarding, especially today.
Cool. Good. Thank you. Well, I'm gonna put everybody into breakouts, like we did yesterday, and then we'll come back and close the day and offer some final thoughts and insights. But we'll be in the breakouts, and I have another slide. I'm tired of showing you slides. So when you go into the breakout room, introduce you may be meeting somebody that you didn't meet with yesterday. Introduce yourself, tell them where you are and what your role is. But it's our opportunity in the breakout to share, your insights. What did you learn today? What were your thoughts working through the worksheets that power the mastermind as we come together? That's as part of this family call. So Mr. Bartlett, any insights on the breakouts while I set this up here?
No, I think, again, just the idea behind a mastermind is different points of view informing what it is that I'm doing. I've got a question here. I've got a concern here. I'm noticing something about this. What can you tell me? What are you noticing about what I'm just saying? And just sometimes just sharing, okay, this is my experience of this. I noticed that I was, as Ryan was saying, the communication area is something that may be useful for me to shore up, in a different sort of a way. And sometimes you can even just make a request. Yeah, any of you would like to partner with me in exploring how I might be able to shore this up? So feel free to take advantage of the resource that is present in your breakout room. Don't just leave it in the room, okay, so to speak. Yeah, exchange information if you want in a way that's appropriate for you, but feel free to reach out to each other.
Cool. All right, I'm going to hit go, so we'll open all the rooms up. Start up the recording. There we go. Bring everybody home.
Come on down.
Then I'm not going to go back and share again. I'm going to just remind everybody, LinkedIn group.
Nadim, welcome.
Hi, Blaine. Hi, Donald. How are you?
Great, Nadim. Good to see you.
Thank you. It's great learning and experience, especially I'm interested in communication. Great to hear you guys.
Good. Thank you.
Good.
I'm based in Abu Dhabi, UAE.
UAE, okay, in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
So it's a little late for you right now.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like 10 p.m.
10 p.m. Yeah, I think you're on the same time zone as Nicole right now.
I know. 10 p.m. See the color of my hair? 10 p.m. is way past my bedtime. Way past my bedtime.
Guys,
No.
I'm not buying it.
Oh, it's,
I've got the same hair, dude.
yeah, you do 10:05.
Thanks, Chad.
Yeah,
Thank you for
10:05, I
bailing
can
me
do
out, Chad. I
10:05.
appreciate you, man. So let's just we're at the top of our time together today. I just want to just kind of take a moment and just any final thoughts? How was the experience working together? How are the breakout sessions going? Having an opportunity to meet other leaders and have conversations. A good experience?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Lauren, I see you nodding
Okay.
your head. So
Hey,
that
way
must
to go,
be
Ryan.
okay. Good. All right. Good. Good.
Good.
Well, great work today. So what I would encourage you is, these are just so you know, on Friday, you're going to get a participant guide, and it's going to include all of the slides, all of the content, all the worksheets, all that, plus the 30-day plan, all of the stuff again. But as we distribute this every day, it's an opportunity for you to, just kind of revisit the day. And I would encourage you somewhere in the process of the day, just take 10, 15, 20 minutes and eliminate your distractions and revisit the content. Revisiting the content cements it. It's that opportunity to go back and do linking and chunking with our knowledge, which kind of helps us cement it into the fiber of our thinking and into our spirit. So would encourage you to do that. I'm going to put again the link to the LinkedIn group, private group, into the chat. So if you aren't in the group yet, would invite you to join there. I'll post the PDFs there every day and a link to the recording as soon as Zoom has that available. And I will, if you have any challenges, I'm going to put my email address again back in the chat. So please don't hesitate and Chad, here you go.
Yep.
There we go. So
I'll put
don't
mine in
hesitate.
there as
Please
well,
reach out
just
and
so you got it.
I'll watch it as we go along too. But thank you for a good day. Thank you. By the way, just a gratitude for this group. That was a really good conversation around the definition of leadership.
Yeah.
This is the place for us to unpack all of this and get better at practicing our skills. So thank you for taking time to do that. On that note, we'll see everybody tomorrow.
See everybody, 9 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow, and enjoy the rest of your day, as either short or as long as it may be.
Yeah,
Thanks,
exactly.
guys.
Good night.
Thank you
See
very much.
everybody.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.